Weather. We have a storm here that is quickly intensifying. There's a couple of things I want to show you here. A very efficient hail core here that has been intensifying as it's gone on. And yes, we do have a little bit of a tail on this. And you know that I'm not usually much of an alarmist with storms like this, but what I want to show you is that we do have, and we have been seeing some reciprocal winds here. So I mean, you have the differing directions of wind. So when you have the green and the red, those are different directions. And what I want to show you is you tend to look for when these are kind of working together and when they tend to be kind of in concert with each other. And if we pay attention to this, obviously it's behind the graphic there, but when we look, you can see here, obviously seeing some of the brighter greens, and it's harder to see this far away from the radar. We're a great distance away from the radar view, but we are, again, we're seeing some of those brighter greens and some of the reds here that appear evident. And so I am looking at this storm at least trying to increase its rotation there. So this is a severe thunderstorm at this point. That warning that is there, that goes until 1:45 here, and is moving about 25 miles per hour to the southeast, and is rated for 60-mile-per-hour winds and a $half size hail. So we're right around the baseline for the winds there. 60-mile-per-hour winds, 58 and higher is generally what you expect for a severe storm like that. And then quarter-size hail, but we've bumped that up now to $half size hail. This storm is only going to intensify, and we've been talking about the possibility of severe storms today. I will tell you, I've not had an opportunity to look at the prospects for severe storms later this evening. That was a little bit more of kind of our focus, was not only storms today, but I do think that we will see more this evening, or at least could, especially since we're not seeing a whole lot of activity in our area just quite yet. So I'm looking at another monitor here because I'm setting something else up so I can keep a better eye on this. But this is a storm. It's right over Richland right now. Richland, you're getting the heaviest part of the storm. That's going to be heading right towards Curvin there, towards the Fairfield area. So right into Freestone County here. And this particular storm, not only is it intensifying, but as I mentioned, we are looking at what at least looks to me to be trying to increase some rotation here. So we are going to watch this very closely. If you're in Wortham, if you're in Curvin, and if you're in Fairfield and Teague, I would be watching this storm. We'll follow this one as it moves south. I know that we have some Freestone County viewers there, so we'll kind of pay attention to this as we go forward here. And it doesn't look at this point, I don't believe we have a watch yet, severe thunderstorm watch. I'm curious to see what the Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service do in that regard, whether they issue one that includes our area or is it farther south. We will have to wait and see what they do because we only have this one severe thunderstorm warning for this particular area. Pretty clear hail core there. Again, you can see that pink and even some white, and eventually we'll probably see some black in there, unfortunately, as those hailstones grow in size. But we are, again, looking at this little tail here in an area where this is a pretty typical storm, a pretty typical supercell, and so you tend to have at least some rotation with those, but what matters is whether we see that rotation really ramp up at the surface and whether it maintains itself. Now, as I mentioned, we are farther away from the radar at this point, so we're looking a little higher in the storm. Rotation higher in the storm is generally not what you're as concerned about, but when we start to see that at the surface, and one of the signs of that, again, is when you start wrapping that precipitation around it, that is a sign that that rotation is moving lower in the levels of that storm. I just mentioned the black there. Unfortunately, we are seeing that, and so that means that storm is intensifying. Something else I want to show you here is the way you can tell when there is shear in the atmosphere is the anchor of the storm, the surface of the storm is here, and then you see how it wraps around and kind of goes this way. You kind of have a curvature to the storm shape. That's where the storm goes up, and this over here, that's where you start to see where the anvil of the storm is going, where the higher levels are. So you can see that curvature, you can see where that shear is in the atmosphere, and that is another sign, again, of the fact that the storms that develop today could very well be strong to severe. I want to make clear here, I'm talking about rotation and those kind of things. We do not have a tornado warning at this point. We don't have reports of a tornado, but we do have at least the signs of rotation in this storm. Now again, whether or not it's able to maintain it, whether or not it's able to focus that rotation and organize it well enough to produce something, that is the question. That is open right now. That is why there's only a severe thunderstorm warning at this time, because the National Weather Service has not at this point considered this to be a imminent or credible tornadic threat. So that's the good news. If we do have a tornado warning issued, obviously that will change the game. But right now, I'm just looking at that rotation. Really, imminently, the biggest threat from this storm is going to be the hail. I mean, very large hail possible in this storm. We talked a moment ago about how half-dollar size hail was possible with the warning in place. I would say we're probably going beyond that either now or very soon. I mean, if we look at that hail core here, a very clear hail core just south of Richland. I mean, you can see that big gray blotch. And generally, when you see gray on this map, that's where you start getting into severe sized hail. And it is only intensifying from here. This is the storm that dumps some heavy rain all the way up 45 from Palmer to Ennis, moved down through Rice and Alma and into Corsicana, now moving out of Navarro County fairly soon, moving into Freestone County. Again, just kind of skirting you there in Wortham, near Curven there and towards Fairfield and Teague. So if you're in, I would say, central or western Freestone County, you want to be paying attention to this particular storm. The warning does go into parts of Limestone County. You see that Mejia is included there. Let's back this off just a little bit so you can kind of see that whole polygon just east of Groesbeck. So this storm, a storm like this, I mean, it could take a farther right turn and go due south. So they try to make these things fairly wide to account for the probability, or at least the possibility, that this storm could change track. It could go farther to the east, could go farther to the south. So you just have to watch these and pay attention to what it is doing to make sure that all of those bases are covered. I want to kind of broaden this out a little bit. And what you'll see is a couple of things. One, this is really the only storm in our area, and it's progressing farther south, but you see this little boundary here. And I'm fairly certain this is probably the outflow boundary that we are watching for storms later today to be possible. And if you follow that, I mean, that's probably what kicked off this particular storm, kind of an early bloomer here. The rest of the storms that I'm going to be watching for, I'm a little bit more attentive towards the late afternoon, evening hours. I mean, it's right now it's about just past 1 o'clock, so we're still a little bit early in the game here. Models still have storms this evening. Now, what's kind of unclear is whether those models are more accurate or whether those models possibly are a little bit ambitious, either of which are possible, but we will be paying very close attention to that. I'll be monitoring radar as we go forward, but as I said, this is the only storm that we really have at this time. Well-defined supercell here. Severe thunderstorm warning is in place until 1:45. That is warned for 60 or higher mile-per-hour winds and hail at least half-dollar sized. And that is where we cross into damaging hail. Severe hail is 58 inches or more in diameter. So there, I mean, we're looking at, 58 miles per hour, and then the hail is 1 inch in diameter. You can tell that I'm all springed out, right? Today is the first day of meteorological summer, and we're keeping this active period going, which, on one hand, I'm not going to blame Mother Nature for that. I'm not going to complain too much because all of the rain we get getting into meteorological summer is a blessing. We don't have any drought conditions right now, and so any rain we can get in June will really help to kind of store up some moisture as we get closer to the drier months, July, August, and sometimes September. But this particular storm is a little bit on the extra side, a little bit more than usually what we want. So as it's moving into Curvin now, you can see it's kind of starting to extend southward a little bit, just moving towards Fairfield and Teague. Advertised as moving about 25 miles per hour, but you can see that it is kind of building farther to the southeast. So sometimes that's going to move up your timeline a little bit. The core of the storm may be moving about 25 miles per hour, but as it's moving, it is building farther southeast. So that's why you can't look at a timeline on a storm like this and say, I'm going to get nothing until this particular time. Because when they're tracking the speed of that storm, they're looking at the storm's core. Now, just to give a little bit more of a layout here, this is south of Corsicana. It's already moved through that area, so you're not included in that warning. This is far southern Navarro County, moving into parts of Freestone County here. Yes, Limestone County, you are included in that warning. You're not under threat at this moment, but again, they are accounting for the possibility that that storm could take a right turn and move farther due south here rather than its current southeasterly track that we see that on. Obviously, farther to the east, we'll kind of broaden this out a little bit. More storms off to the east here, some of those moving towards Grapeland and Crockett, but right now the storm that is our focus, that is closer to our area, is this storm headed towards Fairfield right now. Now, I've gotten reports of smaller hail farther up in Navarro County earlier from this particular storm, reports of dime-sized hail and that kind of thing, and haven't had anything too recently, not seeing a lot of reports in the comments here. But there's going to be plenty of hail falling from this particular storm. And as I mentioned, I will be looking to see what other storms we may possibly have later today. It looks like if the models are correct, specifically if the HR model is correct, then we could be looking at storms developing more towards dinner time, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, or at least moving into our area, developing west and then moving in around that time. We will see, though, sometimes with these outflow boundaries and these smaller complexes and these little disturbances, all these smaller features, the models have a hard time handling those. And so we'll kind of have to sit and watch and wait for that. It's going to be another very familiar spring day where I am sitting here in the studio just kind of watching and waiting to see what will ultimately happen this evening. So really from now until about midnight is when I'm watching. I know that's a big window, but that's when I'm going to be watching for the probability of storms. Now, if we don't get any storms by, say, sundown, that might be a good indication that nothing's going to happen. I say that, but we've had an experience recently where we all said, hey, we're done. I mean, I double-checked with the National Weather Service. I double-checked with other meteorologist friends that I know. And we all said, yeah, I think we're done. I think we're good. I think we get to go to bed now. Sure enough, about an hour later, a storm blasted through the Metroplex. Unfortunately, it didn't come here, but hey, it was enough to watch. So in the springtime, we have to make sure we're not too comfortable, because when we get comfortable, that's when surprises happen. You can see that this storm continues to bubble up here, continues to intensify, seeing more of that black in there as those hailstones continue to fall over far southern Navarro County and northern Freestone County. So again, if you're in Wortham, Teague, Fairfield, that area, Richland is just going to be just south of Richland now, but be at least indoors, and I would say maybe avoid windows if you can. We have hail falling, and sometimes those hail sizes will escalate fairly quickly. And so I may not be able to warn you before those hail sizes grow and larger, more damaging hail actually impacts your location. So if you're in this severe thunderstorm warning, you want to be indoors right now. This is not a tornado situation. We are monitoring at least some broad rotation with this storm, but it is not tornado warned at this time, so the National Weather Service is not considering this to be an imminent tornadic threat at this point. Also, no reports of anything. However, as we talk about this, and again, this is harder to see too much detail in the storm. We're a pretty decent distance away from the radar at this time, but that said, you can see the brighter green and you can see the red kind of right there with it. So I'm not seeing anything that has me calling for an emergency at this point, but we are seeing at least the signs of some persistent rotation with this storm. It is definitely something we will have to continue to watch here as we go through the rest of the afternoon. And we are only warming up. It's only 1 o'clock. We will get warmer, which means the air will further destabilize, and that will provide additional opportunities for this storm to continue to intensify as it moves off to the southeast. We do have a slight risk of severe weather today, not looking at any kind of an outbreak or anything of that sort, but any storm that does develop, the atmosphere is definitely primed for severe storms. And so anything that we see pop up in our area will be worth watching. This is the only storm in our area at this time. We'll back that off and kind of give you a view of that, but we are watching for more. We do have this little, you can see just a little bit of a boundary there, and we will be monitoring the radar throughout the rest of the day and the evening for the possibility of storms. We get a break tomorrow, more storms late Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday. Looks like we may get a break on Friday. I'm a little bit hesitant to sell that to you too much, but looks like Friday we could get a break, and then more storms possible over the weekend. So it is going to be an active period here in our area, unfortunately, as we start the first full week of, this is one of those interesting deals where the first is on Sunday, so we get a full week right off the bat for June, and it is going to be an active week for sure. But again, if we are getting a decent amount of rain the first week of meteorological summer, hard for me to complain too much about that. This we've got an update here, and clearly defined hail core with this storm right outside of Wortham. Probably a fairly loud storm too. You can see the lightning strikes. It looked like there was plenty of lightning with it earlier. And then moving towards Fairfield and Teague, just moving into town, you're getting just some of the rain that's pulled ahead of that. You're not getting the heaviest part of the storm yet. The heaviest part of the storm, the strongest updraft, and where all of that hail is going to be falling back off to your north, but it is headed your direction, so you will want to watch this very closely. As I mentioned, it is kind of building southward. So even though the core of the storm itself is only moving about 25 miles per hour, it continues to kind of stretch southward, continues to kind of stretch out. So we'll see what this does as we go forward here. If you're in the Wortham area, pay attention to this storm, because we have been, again, like I've been saying, we have been looking at very least some higher level, some broad rotation. It's not looking, at least just judging by this, like the rotation is staying very well organized. I've been watching the velocity kind of over my shoulder here, and I'm not seeing anything that has me immediately concerned, but it is at least worth keeping an eye on, as what looks to me like a pretty straightforward supercell thunderstorm continues to move into Freestone County, moving out of southern Navarro County at this time. And yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot about this storm at this point. Not seeing any kind of views from the ground, unfortunately. So not a whole lot of ground truth at this point. Not much of a view of this. But if you have views of that storm, we would be happy to take a look at any kind of pictures that you might have. But just a severe thunderstorm warning at this point. We do not have a watch at this time. The National Weather Service and the Storm Protection Center are looking to issue a watch at some point. I'm sure one will be coming out fairly soon. Unsure of how far north and how far west that watch will include, but that will give us a big hint as far as what the Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service are thinking in terms of what's possible for our particular area. And yeah, so nothing new from the National Weather Service at this point. Just to kind of give you another perspective here, just to broaden this out, there's nothing else going on across our area. There are storms headed for the Crockett area right now. That's just a special weather statement, not a severe storm at this time. The storm that we've been watching moving out of Navarro County, moving into northern Freestone County right now. This is the only severe storm in our area, but you can see this boundary here that extends from Cleburne down towards Carl's Corner there. So that is the outflow boundary that we have been watching. That is what is kind of kicking off these storms, and we could very well see more develop, and I will tell you the models still argue that more storms are possible later this evening. So we are far from done. This could be kind of a long afternoon. We are getting a little bit of a break here. Excuse me, those of you that are not included in this storm are getting a bit of a break, and it's not looking too terribly daunting at this moment, but it is still well worth watching across our area. This storm in particular, as it is a nasty one. We've seen this bring reports of at least dime-sized hail farther back, but now, of course, the warning is telling us this storm is capable of producing half-dollar size hail. So from quarter is your baseline. $half size is a step up from that. So that's what we're looking at in terms of what the warning is telling us. I haven't had any reports from the ground quite yet. I'm going to actually check on that, see if we've got anything rolling in message-wise. Sometimes we'll get just little pictures and little reports there. Yeah, haven't seen anything yet, so we'll continue to kind of watch for those little communications that sometimes come in and give us a better picture of what's going on. We can only see so much through radar here. And again, what we are seeing is, number one, a well-defined hail core here. And then we are watching the western side of that storm, southwestern side, for signs at least of some rotation. Nothing too intense at this time that I can see. National Weather Service probably getting a better look at this, and they have not at this point issued a tornado warning or anything like that. They have not amended this severe thunderstorm warning to discuss. We'll have this little a little tag, if you will, that'll pop up on some severe thunderstorm warnings that'll say, hey, tornado possible. We have not seen that on this storm at this point. So no imminent tornado threat, but we are watching some rotation with that storm, something just to keep as a note as this storm continues to move forward. Now, that area of rotation that we're watching right around Wortham will continue on kind of right down the county line here. So if you're in eastern portions of Limestone County here, you will want to watch this storm, at least for that benefit, just in case that is able to further organize itself and become more threatening. It's not at this point. The biggest concern right now is the large hail threat, and it doesn't look like we have too much in terms of winds. We do have some gusty winds in this storm. I would say 60, 65 miles per hour. We're not getting quite to 70 to 75 yet. 70-mile-an-hour winds, that is a kind of a step up. That's where we would start talking about a more destructive storm. Not seeing at this time, but we will be watching to see what the National Weather Service does as this storm continues on to the south. The National Weather Service, of course, that is our source of watches and warnings and those special weather statements. That's the blue there that's still kind of in place. But those are the biggest indicators from the National Weather Service of what they are seeing. They have a better view of this storm than I do. So they are important in informing what I do and letting me know, hey, we're seeing the same thing you're seeing, or hey, we need to pay attention to this or that in that storm. So they are an important part of this whole process. I know sometimes they don't get the attention that the TV meteorologists or the social media guys, they don't get the same attention that we get, but they are working harder than we are. You think I'm working hard this spring? National Weather Service is literally working around the clock. I mean, their offices are open 24 hours a day, and they are working around the clock to make sure that we are informed of what is going on in these particular storms. And so pretty much clearing Navarro County at this point. You'll want to give this one a little bit of space. Don't quite go outside yet in southern Navarro County. Just give this storm a little bit of space to get a little farther south here. Let all that lightning get out of the way and that kind of thing before you jump outside and resume any outdoor plans that you might have had as people are coming home from church and getting settled in. Of course, I know growing up, after church, that was nap time. So that gave us an opportunity to get some rest after a church service in the morning. But if you are trying to go outdoors, give that storm a little bit of time. Obviously, if you're in Fairfield and Teague, Wortham and Mexia, you definitely want to give this storm some time because it is headed your way. So this thing moving about 25 miles per hour here, 25 to 30. And As I mentioned, that's how strong, or that's how fast the core of this storm is moving. It's been building a little farther south, and so it doesn't mean it's going to take that much time for rain to start. That's just how long it's going to be before you get the core of that storm, where we've been watching that hail threat. The good news is we've been watching the possibility of some rotation, those signs of rotation. It's just not quite able to keep that organized at this point. So that is part of the reason that we are seeing, you know what, I need to make a couple of adjustments. I was so quick to jump on here, didn't make these adjustments here. I don't need that. Okay, so I had the wrong logo up there. All right, well, Jimmy, sorry about that. If you're watching, a little bit of a delay on getting you up there, but this is what we're watching here, is this particular storm. If you're just joining in, and I think there might be some folks in Fairfield going, what on earth is headed our way? Well, you have a severe thunderstorm. A severe thunderstorm warning does include you until 1:45. So this is the storm that we are watching here. And if you're in the rest of our area, I just want to kind of do another reminder here that so far, we've not had anything else in our area. Now, I've been seeing a couple of messages that maybe there's some rain along this little outflow boundary here. That's what we've been watching. This boundary is going to be what initiates any new storms we see later on this afternoon and this evening. So that will be our focus, and that's where we could very well see more storms, especially as we get into peak heating. 3, 4, 5 o'clock, I think, is when we could very well see some new storms popping up. It could be sooner than that, but I think that that's most likely when we're going to see that new development here, that mid to late afternoon period. But this particular storm will continue to move southward, so it will continue to move farther away from our core area of Ellis Hill, Johnson, and Navarro counties here. But like I say, I know that we have some Freestone County viewers here, so I at least wanted to give you the heads up of what is headed your way. We've been watching the possibility of some rotation with this. The good news is this storm has not been able to maintain that rotation as it has progressed. Doesn't mean it can't do that in the future, but up to this point, it just hasn't quite been able to do that. And part of that may be that we're not totally destabilized yet. We could see it destabilize further as we go through the rest of the day. We continue to warm those temperatures as we get into the 80s here, but not seeing that at this point. This storm is pretty straightforward as far as a supercell is concerned, and of course now we are looking at, again, just that little bit of a tail there. So it's kind of gone back and forth, and so it's just not been able to establish itself. Mark Bear saying that they're going to issue a severe thunderstorm watch or tornado watch this afternoon or evening. Yeah, that's what we were talking about when they issued that mesoscale convective discussion earlier during a mesoscale discussion. Yeah, they are weighing a watch, but what will be interesting to watch on that, like I said, is whether we see that reach farther north into our area or if they stay farther south and farther east. That will, again, tell us a lot about what the National Weather Service is thinking about the forecast for the rest of the afternoon and this evening. I imagine they're probably leaning towards a severe thunderstorm watch at this point. I would be surprised to see if they issued a tornado watch, just because the tornado threat itself doesn't appear to be that great. We've been watching rotation with this storm, but it's really had a hard time maintaining that. So my guess is going to be that we will see a severe thunderstorm watch, most likely south of the Metroplex, but we will see what they do with that as we go forward. They've updated this severe thunderstorm warning to now exclude Corsicana, Navarro County at least, and then we still have this special weather statement here. They're just, I think, going to let that hang around until that expires, but the main thing is that severe thunderstorm warning that goes until 1:45. So this storm moving towards Teague, towards Fairfield here, and still seeing this storm attempt to make some rotation, but at this point, it's just not been able to keep it organized as we've gone forward. So the main issue with this storm, the main concern, is going to be that hail threat. We could be seeing hail of at least $half sized hail, going larger than that possibly as it continues to move southeastward, if it continues to intensify. Obviously, you see more storms, this one moving into Grapeland towards Crockett, and that storm picking up steam as well. As we warm up, we're going to see that. That is going to increase the lift, and these storms will only get stronger. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to watch this and monitor this, and keep an eye on all of this activity. I'm going to wrap up live coverage for now, but I will bring it again if we have more storms that pop up. I want to make sure that I can kind of go see what the National Weather Service is thinking, see if they issue that watch. That way I can be at the desk if that is issued. And then as we go forward through the rest of the afternoon and evening here, we will be watching for more storms that could impact our core area here, our core counties. And we will have to watch the rest of the afternoon and evening to see if that outflow boundary will pop more storms, or if maybe it will be farther south of our area and we can get off scot-free. But I doubt that. So stay tuned to South Metro Weather for more updates throughout the rest of the afternoon and